Let's make a beaded raspberry with size 8 beads. If I cover up the greenery above the raspberry, you will see I have made 4 parallel rows, horizontal parallel rows. The first row has 6 beads, the second row has 6 beads, the next row has 5 beads, and the last 4 has 4 beads. And then I added the greenery. If you wanted a more petite looking raspberry, you could construct the berry with size 11 beads, which are smaller than the size 8 I'm using here. I already have put in place the 6 beads for the top row of the raspberry. I've now passed my needle and thread through the fabric to the right side, and I've put on the next row of 6 beads. Because I want the berry to be slightly dimensional, instead of laying down the beads flat on the fabric and putting the needle and thread through the fabric at the end of the last bead, instead what I'm going to do is back my needle and thread back about, maybe a half of a bead, and that's where I'm going to pass the needle and thread through the fabric. As you can see now, it's a slightly rounded or three-dimensional look. We've made the 2 top rows of the berry, and now I'm going to be putting on 5 size 8 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, I'm going to let them fall down to the fabric, touching each other and the fabric. And instead of putting the needle and thread through the fabric at the very end of the last bead, I'm going to take the needle and thread, back it up about a half of a bead, and that's where I pass the needle and thread through the fabric. So we have 3 rows done and 1 row remaining. Row of 6, another row of 6, a row of 5. This time we will put 4 beads on to give the illusion of a raspberry shape. 1, 2, 3, 4 beads are on my needle and thread. I'm pushing them down to the fabric, touching each other and the fabric, laying them flat, and again, instead of putting the needle and thread through the fabric at the edge of the last bead, I'm going to back the needle and thread up about a half a bead space from where the end was, pass the needle and thread through the fabric at that place instead. Now, you can see our raspberry has taken shape. You probably also can see that between the rows of beads, you can see some of the background fabric, which is a creamy white color. That's going to happen if your background fabric is a different color or value than the beads you're using. So if you didn't want to see those rows of white fabric in between, you would start out with a piece of fabric that is the same color or value than the beads you are using. And so in this example, you cannot see the dark blue fabric between the rows of the beads because the color of the bead and the color of the fabric is the same value. I would say they're both dark values.